I sit there and I watch all these people eating French fries and onion rings. And I look and I'm like, oh, they just don't know. They do not know that that was just deep fried in this toxic sludge. And they're putting it in, and not only at that meal, but every day. And it's in everything, unless you're eating a really clean whole foods diet. It's really in everything. And, when I'm at restaurants now, like, even if you think you're getting a healthy pan-seared salmon, on the menu, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to stay away from the fried seafood, and I'm going to stay, I'm just going to order. Well, they squirt that oil in the pan before they set your salmon in it and flip it. Why? Because it has a high heat smoking point. So they like to cook with it. It does a good job at crisping up, which the texture, that's what the chef likes to see, that nice brown edge. And because it's gone through this 8-stage chemical process, it's pretty much odorless and flavorless. So it's not imparting a strong flavor onto the food. And so you think that you're at a restaurant, even high-end restaurants, getting a nice piece of salmon. Well, I tell them when I order even a steak, I say, can you please tell them I cannot eat any oil? I even go so far as saying I'm allergic to oils. They can't use any oil on my food. And I say they can use as much butter or bacon grease as they want, but I can't have oil. And that's really the best way to get around, because people are like, well, what's the deal? I can't go out and eat at restaurants anymore. Well, it's pretty tough, but there's actually an app on the phone now that is to locate restaurants in their seed oil use or their seed oil non-use. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I'll look up the name of it, and then just let you know, just because somebody might be interested. Let me just see.
Yeah, we'll tag that in the notes too.
Seed Oil Scout. It's a free app. Seed Oil Scout. SOS is the cute little emblem for it there. The graphic. Seed Oil Scout. SOS. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
okay. Amazing.
I always try to spread any information that I can to help people to avoid this toxic stuff. But the most important thing is getting people to really understand that simple little, Kraft Italian dressing that people are marinating their chicken in when they grill it and pouring on their salads. It's so unhealthy. It's so horribly toxic to our bodies. And people don't know. They just don't know.
Yeah, that's why we so appreciate your passion and people like Dr. Kenobi and their passion to share this message. Thank you for the app recommendation. That's fantastic. We'll make sure we link that in the notes. A few things I kind of wanted to get to today. You have been a carnivore for a long time, and I wanted to know what things basically kind of got you there. I also want to talk about a recent experience where you and I actually got to meet in person, which was lovely, in KetoCon in Austin, which was such a great time. You were on a panel discussion that I found fascinating. I would love to get your input on some of that stuff. Before we get to those things, I do want to ask you, can you remind our audience when you started to learn that these things were a true problem for you? I know you did suffer through a pretty severe sugar addiction. When did you start to learn that sugar was a problem, seed oils were a problem, and you might need some type of alternative diet to help make you feel healthier?
Yeah, well, Casey, for me, I got to say it was a 30 years of struggling and not understanding. I had no idea at that way back when I was in my teens and 20s that this was literally an addiction. Like, I had no clue. All I knew was that I had a hard time eating one cookie, and I could never eat half a cupcake. And if, my mom made lasagna and the lasagna was so good, I wanted a second piece. And I don't know what causes it in some people to be much worse than in others. If you listen to Joan Iflin, she's an authority on food addiction. I think her statistic is like 88% of the population has some form of sugar carb addiction. And it's interesting because even like people who, I'll just talk to a random friend and we're chatting about stuff, and I'll bring up like, yeah, I don't eat sugar anymore. And they're like, not even fruit. And I go, no, because fruit triggers the craving for sweet. And I have no reason to put fruit in my body. It's glucose, fructose, and sucrose is in a piece of fruit. And it really is inflammatory and is really not healthy. The fruit that we have these days are genetically modified to be big sugar bombs. And so, and then they're like, well, they said, well, they don't have a problem with sugar. And then as the conversation went on, but they're like, oh, but yeah, I eat my chocolate every day. It's like, you eat chocolate every day. Okay. So it's just interesting when you really kind of think to yourself what your habits are. And it could be even something as simple as like morning cereal, because that stuff, those grains and the cereals, they just convert right into sugar as soon as you're eating it. And it's not necessarily just, ice cream and donuts. It's also bread and cereal and chips. And so it's pretty widespread. But for me, I just could not figure out how to stop being so driven to keep eating it and binging on it. And I suffered for so long. And I finally, thank God for, by the time the computers and the internet, because this is way back, and 2009 was when I finally found my answer, when I came across, while I was web surfing one night on March 9th of 2009, I came across this group called Zeroing In on Health, because I did know as time went on, like maybe a few years before that, I did realize that if I eliminated, quote unquote, sugar and flour from my diet, that I was so much better off, right? But then I'd have a bag of dried apricots. And well, of course, this is paleo and this is okay. It's fruit, it's natural, it's from nature, right? But I would eat that like candy. And I'd clean strawberries for my kids, a quart of strawberries. Every other one went in my mouth. I'm like, what's going on here? There's still something wrong. So it was when I came across this group that they were a little thread on a low carb forum, and they were people who said, wow, we did so great on the Atkins induction phase, which I haven't actually really researched and done the whole Atkins thing, but I think the first 2 weeks, this induction phase is literally carnivore. And so this was a group that said, they feel so great doing it. Why do we have to stop and start climbing the carb ladder, I guess, like the instructions are? And they formed their own group. Charles Washington, I credit really him for my discovery of this whole thing. And they started, we would discuss books like Fat of the Land and Not by Bread Alone. And we actually did a lot of scientific discussions, because we were a group of very inquisitive people that were there for all different reasons. Some women with eating disorders that were resolved, and that's what perked me up. I'm like, yeah, I definitely have an eating disorder. Let's jump in and try this. And I did, before I even waited, because I wasn't going to wait for a study to show me that this was healthy and safe. All I knew was that there was people in there who resolved themselves of this addiction, and I was all in immediately. Because if you know what it's like, eating in secret and hoarding food and eating in your car and getting in your car to go drive to get it. I mean, this is a very serious, I'm going to say debilitating, because it changes so many aspects of your life, aside from it being so unhealthy. But I think that when I started and said to myself, well, it's going to kill me one way or the other. Either I'm going to kill myself with this, binge eating problem, or with this carnivore zero carb diet. I was like, I don't know. It was a tough one. And then as I kept doing it and feeling better and better and reading more and more, I'm like, holy crap, this not only is this right answer, but it's actually what everybody should be doing. This is the optimal way to health. This is how we get our body to heal, by getting out of its way, by not putting any of this toxic food. And then it's cognitive dissonance. You have to say, well, of course, vegetables are good for you, right? You have to have vegetables. It's like, well, no, we're actually learning there's, phytates and lectins and oxalates. And I'm like, I don't have to eat my veggies. And then somebody were like, oh, but I love my salad. I'm like, yeah, you know what you love? You love the salad dressing. You love the bacon on the salad. You like the grated cheese on the salad. And you like the grated carrots that are sugary, because there's a lot of sugar in carrots. Okay. This is what you like about your salad and think about it and just eat a piece of plain lettuce. Like, how good is that? How much are you loving that? Right. So, it really has to be where you have to have your own personal why that makes you cry, because most people aren't going to listen to this and be going about their life all fine and say, wow, let me listen to what this crazy lady's saying, how healthy this is, and dig in and do it. Why? Because it's so tough socially at the beginning, and it's tough for yourself. Like, I couldn't imagine going out to breakfast and not having my toast or my toasted bagel with it. And it's like really difficult to really wrap your brain around the fact that this stuff is not healthy. Grains are not good for us. We should not be eating grains. So yeah, that's pretty much my long-winded story about really how I got into this. It was my own personal struggle. And now it's my own, I'm just so passionate to try to help anybody and everybody out there who's suffering with, whether it's just coming to this because of severe arthritis or diabetes or, weight issues, and there's mental issues, depression, anxiety, bipolar that can be cured with this. And so it's almost like I got to the point where I just wanted to scream it from the rooftops and just shake everybody. Like, you got to understand that there's so much that people are like, the Italians go, well, I'm Italian, I got to eat pasta, I got to have pasta and bread. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't. And then they're always so quick to say, well, so-and-so lived to 100 and they ate, whatever. But yeah, I guess you have to just really think for yourself where you're at on your own health journey. Are you off, not on any medication, have no diagnosis, and at a fairly metabolically healthy, lean body weight? And if that's all going for you and you're still eating bread, I guess more power to you, but I would still say don't eat the seed oils.
Totally. Wow, I love that. So well explained.